Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina kareem wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'een. So after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending salutations on the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, again we want to be grateful and mindful of the many blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which He has bestowed upon us. And from them being the most greatest of them is that of coming together in a masjid from the masajid of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remind ourselves of the beauty and the greatness of this blessed religion of Al-Islam. And this reminder, as we all are aware, is based upon that which is mentioned in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. And that is the best reminder. That is the best reminder. If we can remind ourselves from the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as well as the sunnah of the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam, then there is good upon good and light upon light. And it gives us greater certainty and greater, steadfastness in the religion of Al-Islam. So here it is from the blessings, the many blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we are able to come together, remind ourselves, based upon the book of Allah and the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then about the beautiful religion of Al-Islam. Because we live in a society and we live in a time where the beauty of Islam is rarely mentioned. It is rarely mentioned, and then when these things are mentioned, they are not mentioned from the scholars of Islam or from the strongest students of knowledge of Islam, but rather they are mentioned from the enemies of Islam to deter the people away from the beauty of Islam. So alhamdulillah, we have the books of the ulama and the students of knowledge that shed light upon these very important affairs. And from them, without a doubt, is this wonderful book, beneficial book, which we are reading from, dealing with the superiority of Islam, or Fadl Islam. And it is authored from the great scholar, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. And as we see, that all he really does is mention Qala Qala Rasul. He mentions his viewpoint, and then after he mentions his viewpoint in the chapter, Bab Fadl Islam, you see that all he does is mention that of Qala Qala Rasul and the mentioning of what the Sahaba also. So here we find that is where the blessing is, that is where the importance is in when trying to establish a principle and a point in dealing with this religion of Al-Islam. Not what a person says, and we will come to that today, inshallah, in that regards. So in our last class, alhamdulillah, we went over the first chapter of dealing with it, and that was that of the superiority of Islam. And the Shaykh rahimahullah, he mentioned many proofs. A majority of the proofs that they were emphasizing and highlighting was that of the simplicity and the moderation of Islam. That here in the religion of Islam, if one takes the moderate approach, but it is based upon the Kitab wa Sunnah, that it is better than the diligent approach in contrary to the Kitab wa Sunnah. So here, this is from being the superiority of it, that if one comes across something in the legislation of Islam from the aspects of worship, that here if he only has maybe a couple points or a couple, actions or deeds that he is aware of or that he knows, but he is moderate in them and steadfast upon them, that here it is better than the one who comes into the religion of Al-Islam and tries to make things up or introduce things into the religion, and in fact he becomes diligent upon that. And why is that? Because here the reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it lies in that of following His command and following His religion. And His religion is based upon the command of Allah and the command of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if one does moderately the command of Allah and the command of the Messenger, that he is guaranteed a reward based upon the conditions and everything. If everything is met in that regards, that he is guaranteed a reward in that regards for doing that action, even if it is moderate. Whereas the one who is diligent, he is diligent in some acts of worship or acts of obedience or whatever the case may be, but it has no foundation in the book or the sunnah, that here we find that this individual gets no reward. This individual gets no reward. So today, inshallah, we will go over the next chapter, and this is the establishment of the obligation. So here the Shaykh Rahimahullah, if you follow and pay attention to the sequence, and this is not just with Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, but with all the imams and all of the ulama, especially in these types of books, that you have to pay attention to every aspect of it. From that of the chapters, from that of the adillah that is mentioned, from that of the fiqh or the understanding that is in that title chapter and the likes of that. And you will find that everything is a sequence. So here the Shaykh began by exposing the individual to what? That Islam is the most virtuous religion, or the most superior religion. That there is no religion more greater than that of the religion of Al-Islam. Not from the aspects of worship, not from the aspects of belief, not from the aspects of statements, actions, whatever it may be, you will find that Islam is the best at it, based upon that which is in the Quran and Sunnah. So now here in the next chapter, after establishing that fact, now he establishes the fact, the obligation of accepting and entering into the fold of Islam. Because if you see something that is superior, that here the only logical explainable outcome of that is to accept it. That here if you have a superior product in front of you, and then you have an inferior product in front of you, what are you going to take? You're going to take the superior product. So likewise with the religion of Al-Islam, one comes to say, oh, mashallah, the proofs and evidences all point to that Islam is the most superior religion, that here now it is upon that individual whom Allah has opened his heart to enter into that fold, enter into that religion. And this is where the Shaykh Rahimahullah brings the obligation of wujub ad-dukhul fil Islam. So the obligation of entering in to the religion of Al-Islam. So now what is the proof? What is the proof based upon this? That here the Shaykh Rahimahullah, he brings several. So here firstly he says, وَقَوْلَ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِي غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ وَهُوَ فِي الْآخِرَةِ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. So the first proof he brings in Surah Ali Imran, ayat 85, that whoever desires a religion other than Islam, that it will never be accepted from him, and in the hereafter he will be from the losers. And likewise from the statement, وَقَوْلِهِ تَعَالَى إِنَّ الدِّينَ إِنْدَ اللَّهِ الْإِسْلَامِ. Surah Ali Imran again, ayat number 19. And that verily the religion with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Islam. Then he goes and he mentions وَقَوْلُ اللَّهِ تَعَالَى وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِ مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوا وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا سُبُلًا فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. And this is in Surah Al-An'am, ayat 153. Surah Al-An'am, ayat 153. وَقَالَ مُجَاهِدْ السُّبُلْ بِدْعَ وَشُبَهَاتٍ. So here he says, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا سُبُلًا. وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا سُبُلًا. That here the word subula, according to Mujahid, who was who was Mujahid?
One from Tabi'in or Tabi'in.
Okay, so, but what makes him special, if we can say that.
Was he one of the explainers of the Quran?
Okay. There's many of that, but what makes him a little bit more, Anybody? He was from the ones who took the tafsir directly from Ibn Abbas. He was the main student of Ibn Abbas when it came to the tafsir. In fact, that he said he read the Quran on Ibn Abbas twice, and he asked him about every ayah. Every ayah he asked him about. So his tafsir is... the purpose of its revelation, the meaning of it, what is the rulings of them, the extraction of it from the Arabic language, from the aspects of jurisprudence, everything that he needed. Why was it revealed? Was it revealed because of an individual or because of a situation? What was the purpose of its revelation?
Because he was hungry and wanted to figure it out.
Absolutely, because he was a student, and that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him for that blessing to sit with Ibn Abbas. So here, what did he say this word subala means? Bid'ah or shubuhat. So don't follow evil innovation in the religion, and likewise do not follow doubts and misconceptions in the religion. So these three ayat all establish what? That here the religion of Islam. So here we have to ask, what is Islam? Jazakallah khair. I'll take the key. What is the Islam in the intention of that? What is the intention of Islam in this particular ayat? That here we have to know what the meaning of the religion of Islam is. And I'm only mentioning this not to explain it to you now, because that's going to come in the next chapter. But here to, ignite the interest in our minds to understand that when Allah says, in the dina indallah al-Islam. What is Islam? What is the religion of Islam that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will only accept? That here, inshallah, the tafsir, or the meaning of Islam, will come in the next chapter. So here he continues, on the authority of Aisha radiyallahu an, قالت قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس فيه فهو رد أخرجاه وفي لفظ قال من عمل عملا ليس عليه أمرنا فهو رد. So here he mentions he mentions a narration, but two different wordings. He mentions one narration with two different wordings. So the first one is that which is found in Bukhari or Muslim, where he says, whoever introduces fi amrina, in our affair, that is not from it, then it is rejected. So here's the word introduce, man ahdatha. So here to introduce. And this is found in, like mentioned Bukhari or Muslim. Does he mention in the Kitab al-Sulh and in Muslim Aqdiyah? So here he mentions it in Bukhari, Kitab al-Sulh, and in Sahih Muslim, Kitab al-Aqdiyah, and the judgments and rectification. And then in the third one, in the second wording is only in Sahih Muslim. Only in Sahih Muslim. Meaning that the Sanad in Sahih Muslim is mentioned. But now in Sahih Bukhari, it is mentioned what? Mu'allaqan. What did we say mu'allaq meant? No. Not necessarily. Huh? It's okay. It's not an issue. Because it's good to repeat. Even though we mentioned it, it's good to repeat because the repetition allows it to remain. It allows it to get established.
Is it where the hadith may be weak, but it's connected with something given it?
No. So here, when Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, he mentions, or not so much Imam Bukhari, but when a scholar or imam mentions that it is in Bukhari mu'allaqan. So this is in Sahih Bukhari. If you open up Sahih Bukhari and you go to the chapter where this hadith is mentioned, you will find this hadith. But the thing that is different from these hadith or narrations in Sahih Bukhari And those narrations that are mentioned with the Sanad is just that. That here the Sanad for Sahih Bukhari, for his book that all of the scholars of hadith agree that it is the most authentic book after the Quran, they are meaning what? The book where it's mentioned the Sanad, where our Imam Bukhari says, Hadathana Fulan, Hadathana Fulan, Hadathana Fulan, Hadathana Fulan, right? So here, this is Sahih Bukhari. But now in certain places, Imam Bukhari, he mentions a hadith without a Sanad. He'll just mention either the Prophet, or he'll mention the Tabi'i, or he'll just mention the companion. These narrations are what is called mu'allaq. These are what is considered to be attached. These can be weak, and these can be authentic. They are not deemed from the book Sahih Bukhari, quote unquote. You understand? They are in Sahih Bukhari, but those particular narrations are not what? Of the level and meet the conditions of Imam Bukhari for his Sahih. But in this circumstance, we see that what? The hadith is where? Where is this hadith? Man amala. So man ahdatha is where? Bukhari wa Muslim. No problem. Easy. Right? Man ahdatha. But then he mentions another wording, man amila. Whoever does. Right? So here we mention that Imam Bukhari mentions it what? Mu'allaqan. Right? But how do we know that it's weak or if it's daif or it's that? Where else is it mentioned? In Muslim. So it's a win-win. So there's no need to doubt, oh, is that authentic or not? No. Why? Because Imam Muslim, rahimahullah, he mentions it where? In his Sahih. So here we can say that it is authentic, but it is agreed upon. Is this love agreed upon? No. This love is not agreed upon. Can you wait for the end? Can you wait for the end?
I do, but I want to understand it.
Okay, we can get the understanding better at the end. All right? Is that all right? So here we see that what? That here we have a narration that is agreed upon, a wording that is agreed upon, where it says ahdatha. But then we have another wording that says man amila, where it says that it is in Bukhari or Muslim, but it's not what? Mutafaqun alayh. Why? Because the second wording, the conditions aren't met for Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah, to say that it is what? From his Sahih. But he does mention it in Sahih Bukhari. Why? Mu'allaqan. So meaning that it is authentic according to Imam Bukhari, but it's not of the level of his conditions to be mentioned with the Sanad in his Sahih. So that is the difference. So Bukhari, he's the Imam of Hadith. He has the book that the scholars say. All right, sit and watch and listen, and inshallah will become clear. So here we have the aspect of dealing with this important point. That even though the hadith is in Bukhari wa Muslim, one is mutafaqun alayh, Bukhari wa Muslim, and the other one is what? Only in Muslim. Only in Muslim. So here he says, Man amila amilan laysa alayhi amruna fahuwa rad. So the first one is one who introduced, is a muhdath. That he introduces an affair in the religion that is not from it, that it is what? Rejected. It is rejected. Then the other one says, okay, he didn't introduce the affair, but he did what? He did the affair. He did the deed that was introduced into the affair of Islam. Likewise, it is what? It is rejected. So here he continues, rahimahullah, وَلِلْبُخَارِ عَنْ أَبِي هُرَيْرَةَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ قَالَ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ كل أمتي يدخلون الجنة إلا من أبى قالوا يا رسول الله ومن يأبى قال من أطاعني دخل الجنة ومن عصاني فقد أبى. So here in Sahih Bukhari, that it is mentioned on the authority of Abi Hurairah radiyallahu anhu, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, everyone from my nation will enter into Jannah except for those who refuse. So everyone from my nation will enter into Jannah except those who refuse or turn away. So they said, O Messenger of Allah, who would refuse? A legitimate question there. So who from your nation that believe in you, follow you, all of those things, is going to refuse to enter into Jannah? So he says, whoever obeys me will enter into Jannah, and whoever disobeys me will turn away. So here we see in this particular narration that verily the ones who enter in, the ones who obey the Prophet ﷺ are the ones who will enter into Jannah with the rest of the nation of Muhammad ﷺ. So then he continues, وفي صحيح أن أبي في صحيح أن ابن عباس رضي الله عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أبغض الناس إلى الله ثلاثة ملحد في حرم ومبتغي في إسلام سنة الجاهلية ومطلب دم امرئ مسلم بغير حق ليحرقوا دمه. Rawahu Bukhari. So here he mentions in Sahih, and again Bukhari, that usually the sequence of it is just as that. Mutafaqun alayh, no problem, Bukhari wa Muslim. Then when it says Sahih, majority of the time it's going to be who first? Bukhari. And then possibly maybe it would be Muslim. But in this circumstance, as it was, Rawahu Bukhari. So here he says on the authority of Ibn Abbas, رضي الله عنهما أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال أبغض الناس إلى الله ثلاثة. This is an important point that we have to highlight real quick, that here this is affirming the attribute of anger and hatred to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is very important, because if one has this belief, this hadith will affect him. But if one believes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is not befitting that he becomes angry or has hatred for a group of people, that here, this hadith will what? Not have any effect. That he will say, well, who cares if Allah ta'ala doesn't hate, nor is he angry with anybody. So here, if I do these three things, it doesn't pertain to me. Why? Because I can't implement this hadith because Allah can't get angry. A'udhu billah. That here they say about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala what they have no authority and no knowledge for. And this is why it is important when coming to the names and attributes, more so specifically the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we affirm them as they come. We take them as they come on the apparent meaning of what that word means, without any distortion, without any negation, without any resemblance, and without going into the why or the how or what's this or what's that. We stop where the people stopped. That here, if we look at all of the companions, all of the tabi'een, all of the atbat tabi'een, all of them and all the imams that come after them, we find that they didn't indulge in these affairs. And their religion was what? Salim. The religion was Salim. They didn't go into the intricacies of this and that and the discussion of that and this, and well, Allah Ta'ala can't and Allah is this and all. They didn't do. They stopped at the word. They understood what the word meant, abghad. They understood what that meant. And they understood that that word being attributed to Allah was in a manner that suits His Majesty. Which then in turn what? Gave them the effect of being fearful of Allah not to do what? These three things. These three things that is mentioned in the hadith. To stay away from it. Because they know that if they did do it, then what? They would be from the most hated people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, even the belief in the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it has a tremendous effect in the implementation of the hadith. And that is important. The hadith is not just words. The hadith are meant to be implemented in your life so that what? You can see closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the action. So if we don't believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala abghad, that He becomes angry with a group of people, then these words after it have what? No meaning in reality. So it's not really going to matter at the end of the day if you do this or you don't do this. Why? Because there's no effect. There will be no effect from your action. Allah won't love it, nor will He hate it. Why? Because you, miskeen, don't believe that Allah can love, nor do you believe that He can hate or be angry with. So here now you become in a point in the religion that you are leaving off a very, very important aspect of the religion, and that is the belief of the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here we have Abghadun Nas, the most hated people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the three groups. Mulhidu fil haram. So the evil innovator in the haram, in the sanctity of the haram, being that of Mecca. So somebody who innovates in the religion, an evil innovator in the religion, and he is in the haram, that he is from the most hated people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the shahid is the next point. Mubtaghi fi Islam sunnat al-jahiliyyah. One who wants a sunnat al-jahiliyyah in Islam. So they want to bring something from jahiliyyah into Islam. And that's the shahid of the hadith. وَمُطَلِبُ الدَّمِ الْمْرِئٍ. And then asking for the blood of an individual, Muslim, without right in order to spill his blood. So to go and say, for an example, so-and-so left the religion of Islam. You're lying about him. You're saying so-and-so left the religion of Islam knowing that the punishment is what? Death. So you request that his blood be taken without right. Because he didn't leave the fold of Islam. You lie upon him. Or you say so-and-so fornicated with so-and-so. Or whatever the case may be. In order to get that individual executed. That here, this is not good. This is things that are from the most hated groups of people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the shahid being the second point. The second point being what? One who desires or wants a tradition of jahiliyyah in Islam. So they want to introduce or bring something from jahiliyyah and make it part of Islam. So here Shaykh Abdul Aziz ibn Baz rahimahullah, he says in his notes about this, Mubtaghi fi Islami sunnat jahiliyyah wa anna wajiba ala abd at-tamassuk bi Islam. So here it is obligatory for the worshipper to what? Hold fast and be steadfast with the religion of Islam. وَحَذْرًا مِنَ السُّنَنِ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ. And to be aware of the traditions of Jahiliyyah. وَعَمَلَ بِإِسْلام وَلَوْ قَلَّ هُوَ الَّذِي يَنْفَعُ. And to do the actions of Islam, even if they are a few. This is what benefits. وَأَمَّا الْإِجْتِهَادِ فِي غَيْرِ الْإِسْلَامِ. And as for being diligent in other than Islam, وَغَيْرَ السُّنَّةِ يَضُرُّ وَلَا يَنْفَعُ. It is actually harmful and it does not benefit. So it is obligatory upon wajib. What's wajib? What's wajib? Obligatory, but what's the meaning of it? We're mixing lessons now. We're mixing our jurisprudence class with our Aqidah class real quick. What's wajib?
From the legislator to do an act, and if you do the act, it is rewarded, but if you don't, it's punishment.
Good, you get a 95 because you missed 1 point. That lazim is a talib min al-shari' ala mukallif a talab jazim. That here it is a must, it is a requirement, that it must be done, that this action, it must be done. So it is a request from the legislator upon the mukallif, upon the one responsible, to do this act out of what? A request that is required, al-jazm. Because why? Mustahab is ghayr jazm. It's the same meaning. It's a request from the legislator upon the mukallaf, but it is not what? It is not binding upon him to do that thing. It is not binding. But then if he does it, he is rewarded. But if he leaves it, he is punished. That is the meaning and the effect of wajib. So here he says it is wajib. So meaning that if we do not do this, if we do not hold this or do this act, that we will incur a punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this case, it is what? Being from the most hated people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, wa yadu billah. So here he says, فالواجب على جميع مكلفين التمسك بإسلام وتقيد بالدين الله والسير عليه في كل شيء إخلاصا لله ومتابعة لرسوله. So here he says it is obligatory upon every single responsible individual, mukallaf, a responsible individual person who it is required to fulfill these legislations, to fulfill these commands, and to stay away from these prohibitions. At-tamassik, to hold fast to Islam and to restrict himself with the religion of Allah and to tread upon it in everything sincerely for Allah and following the messenger or following his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So here we see that here to follow that Islam, even if it is a little. So here we have a ayat, we have a hadith, we have something that establishes this point, this aspect that here the Prophet ﷺ brought in order to clarify to the people that this is a thing that will bring you closer to Allah. We do it. We hold fast to it. We do it, even if it is a little bit. Even if it is a little bit. So to add to that, or to take away from that, that here this is what leads to falling into harm, and also that of something that has no benefit. So then he goes, Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah, he says, وَقَالَ Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah. Now Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, is going to bring the meaning of Jahiliyyah. So here, what is a sunnah? A Jahiliyyah. So what is something that is deemed as a tradition or a way of Jahiliyyah? Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he mentions it in his book, Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim. So here he says, قال شيخ الإسلام ابن تيمية رحمه الله تعالى سنة الجاهلية يندرج فيها كل جاهلية مطلقة ومقيدة أي في شخص دون شخص. So what does this mean? So Sunnah Jahiliyyah, it is absolute and also restricted. So when Jahiliyyah is used, it's used in the sense of absoluteness as well as restricted. So what is absoluteness? Absoluteness being not of any time period prior to that of the Prophet ﷺ. So when the Prophet ﷺ received revelation, it was the end of what? Jahiliyyah. Why? Because now there was knowledge, there was light, there was Islam. So the end of absolute Jahiliyyah was what? Ended. So there is no after the time of the Prophet ﷺ where you say what? Of Jahiliyyah. Why? Because we have Islam. Islam is present. Islam is present. So here, is there ignorance? Sure. But it's not absolute. It's not absolute. Where is that? Muqayyid is that where you find now. So here you will find some people will have aspects of Jahiliyyah that other people don't. So this person might be a Buddhist. That person might be a Christian. Are they both Jahiliyyah? Sure. So here, does one come and say, well, no, Sunnah to Jahiliyyah is only what? Buddhism. It doesn't involve Christianity. No, that's false. Why? Because Jahiliyyah is both. It is both. Anything that comes that is contrary to that of the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, then here we see that it is what? A Jahiliyyah, but not an absolute Jahiliyyah. It is not an absolute Jahiliyyah. So he says that في شخص دون شخص كتابية أو وثنية أو غيرهما من كل مخالفة لما جاء به المرسلون. So everything that is in opposition to what the messengers alayhim salatu wasalam brought would be deemed as what? A Jahiliyyah. But muqayyida. It's not absolute. It's not an absolute Jahiliyyah. Why? Because that has been removed with the coming of the Prophet ﷺ. But the ideologies, the isms, communisms and democracyisms and all of these other things, without a doubt, they are what? They are Jahiliyyah. So here, somebody who comes and says, well, okay, we have iqtisadiyya fi Islam is zakat and sadaqah and this and that. but I think it would perform better with a touch of communism or a touch of socialism. This is what? This is exactly what the hadith means. So whoever desires anything from Jahiliyyah and bring it into Islam, then what? It's the most hated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So here, that is the idea of what? Bringing something that is contrary to Islam and putting it in Islam, or trying to make it from Islam. And his book, Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim, meaning Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah, is a tremendous book that everybody should be familiar with when it comes to reading and understanding the aspects of following the people of the hellfire. Following the people of the hellfire and remaining upon that of the religion of Al-Islam. And likewise, the Masail Jahiliyyah from Shaykh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. Two very important books in this subject, in that subject of dealing with Jahiliyyah. Shaykh al-Islam Masail Jahiliyyah is a little bit shorter, but then Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim from Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah is very comprehensive and very vast. It details a lot, and it is very beneficial. And I believe it is translated. I definitely know it's translated. But I don't know if the translation is good. No, Anwar translated that, didn't he? Yeah, so alhamdulillah, the translation is good. So, from Iqtida Sirat al-Mustaqim. So here he continues, وفي صحيح عن حذيفة رضي الله عنه قال يا معشر القرى استقيموا فإن استقمتم فقد سبقتم سبقا بعيدا فإن أخذتم يمينا وشمالا لقد ضللتم ضلالا بعيدا. So this statement from Hudhayfa ibn Yaman radiyallahu anhu, he said, O reciters of the Quran, meaning that of the scholars and the students. So here the scholars and the students, those who learn the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recite it, implement it, try to expand or to contemplate and reflect over it. Istaqimu, remain steadfast. فَإِنْ اسْتَقَمْتُمْ, if you remain steadfast upon the book of Allah, that verily you will have a great advancement. But if you take the right or the left, that verily you will go misguided, or you will deviate a far deviation. So here, an admonishment from Hudhayfa ibn Yaman, an admonishment from Hudhayfa ibn Yaman, and that of remaining steadfast upon what? Steadfast upon the religion of Al-Islam, that you will what? You would advance amongst the people. And if you look, subhanAllah, not to compare and not to show anything or whatever the case may be, that here you find that many of the people who have a little bit of knowledge of Islam, but yet they hold fast to it. They hold fast to that point. Call Allah, do it. Call the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do it. Implement it. But it might be a little bit. That their advancement in the religion is much greater than who? Somebody who might have a whole abundance of knowledge of Islam, but they're all over the place. They're over here, they're over there, they're this, they're that. They're not steadfast upon that of which they know. Where you find the small one, the one who might have just come into Islam. Buni Islam ala khams, shahadat Allah. That's what he's on, and he's sticking to it. That here he's more advanced in regards to the religion than the one who might have memorized 1,000 hadith, but yet he's right and left. I got to go, what's this and this? That he's not steadfast upon anything. And that's the beauty and the blessing and another virtue of Islam. So here Shaykh bin Baz rahimahullah, he says, مَنَّا اسْتَقِيمُ يعني على الطريق والقراء يعني علماء وطلبة العلم. So here, استقيموا يعني على الطريق, remain steadfast upon the path, and the qura, meaning the scholars and the students of knowledge. أي استقيموا على دين الله, that remain steadfast upon the religion of Allah. فإن استقاموا عبد, that if he remains steadfast, if that worshipper remains steadfast, that verily he had a great advancement. وإن حاد يمينا وشمالا, But if he leans to the right or the left, فَقَدْ ضَلَّ ضَلَالًا بَعِيدًا, that verily he has gone far astray. فَوَاجِبْ التَّمَسِّكْ بِمَا شَرَعَهُ اللَّهُ وَحَذْرَ مِمَّا ذَمَّ اللَّهُ. So it is obligatory to hold fast to what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has legislated and to beware of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dispraises, that he belittles and he lowers. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says, أَمْ لَهُمْ شُرَكَاءُ شَرَعُوا لَهُم مِّنَ الدِّينِ مَا لَمْ يَأْذَنْ بِهِ اللَّهُ. Or do they have partners that legislate for them in the religion that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not give them permission to do? Ashura, ayat 21. So here we see another displace, praise from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who claim that they can come and put something into the religion that Allah ta'ala did not give them any permission to do. So he continues, فَكَانَ عَلَى الطَّرِيقِ فَكُنْ عَلَى الطَّرِيقِ وَلَوْ مُقْتَصِدًا. So be upon the path, even if it is moderate. And this is important, because a lot of brothers, sisters as well, they might go to certain places and they see individuals Muslim, they're Muslim, but yet you don't see any Islam, you don't see any Sunnah, you don't see this and that, and you say, well, look, they were born, raised, they speak Arabic, they this, and that. They must be upon something right. Oh, this is wrong. This is incorrect. Because we have to look at where they take that from. Are they taking it from their desires, or are they taking it from the book and the Sunnah? Are they taking it from the book and the Sunnah? So even though you might have a little bit of the book and the Sunnah, and you remain steadfast upon that, alhamdulillah, you're upon much greater benefit and reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than those individuals, even if they pack up, a sports center, a sports stadium or anything of that nature. That all of those people can beware upon misguidance. And because you have a moderate little bit of Islam, but you remain steadfast upon that, then what? That you are advanced. You are more advanced than all of those people who are practicing something that has nothing to do with Islam. Ma abrar muqtasidin, being with the righteous who are moderate. Khayrum, and moderate not meaning, what one might think. Moderate meaning, go ahead and trim your beard and go ahead and, do this, wear this or whatever. You don't have to pray. You can pray at this time. Not that type of moderate. Not that, isn't that what they call them? I'm a moderate. Like I'm not as extreme. I'm the opposite of extreme. Whereas if you pray 5 times a day, what's it? That's negligent, yeah. So like those type of, not meaning not abrar muqtasidin, not those righteous moderates, but being moderate upon that truth and remaining steadfast upon it. Remaining steadfast upon it. Not, taking away from it. Not trying to say, well, it's okay. It's okay if you take off your hijab. It's okay if you do this. Because why? The religion is easy. It's moderate. No, that's not the meaning of moderate in this sense. The meaning of moderate is a little. To take it a little bit at a time. So if you have a little bit of the religion, if you have a little bit of understanding and knowledge, remain steadfast upon that. Don't go right or left on it. Because if you remain steadfast upon that, that is your advancement in this life as well as in the hereafter. So he says, فَكُونَ عَلَى الطَّرِيقِ وَلَوْ مُقْتَصِدًا مَعَ أَبْرَارِ مُقْتَصِدِينَ خَيْرٌ مِنْ أَنْ يَسْلَكَ الطُّرُقَ الْمُنْحَرِفَةَ عَنَ الْهُدَى. And that is better than taking the paths that are deviated. So munharifa, that they're deviated from the guidance. لِأَنَّهَا نُضِلُّهُ وَتَبْعَدُهُ عَنِ اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ. Because it will deviate you or misguide you and remove you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بَلْ صَاحِبْ هُدَى وَإِنْ ظَلَمَ نَفْسَهُ بِبَعْدَ الْمَعَاصِي. Even a person of guidance. Who's a person of guidance? One who has moderate aspects of the religion. Moderate implementation of the religion, meaning that he does a little bit of the religion, but yet he falls into disobedience, is better. فَهُوَ عَلَى طَرِيقِ النَّجَاةِ. That he is upon the path of success. Why? Because that huda and that guidance and that good, it breeds good. You know, right now that individual, he might just be stuck on A and B of Islam, right? But then he has C, D, E, and F of disobedience. If he remains steadfast upon that A and B and is sincere upon A and B, following the sunnah of A and B, Allah Ta'ala is going to give him that success to go where? To C. And then eventually D, E, F, G, H. All the way down the line. Whereas the one who is stuck on A, but he's, I got to go over here. Where is he going to be? He's going to be stuck on A. So the one who understands that he says, man, listen, I'm doing A and B, struggling a little bit. Allah will guide me, Allah help me. What's Allah going to do? Allah's got to guide and help him. If he's sincere and all of that, he will go to C. Because why? He knows that what he's doing is wrong. He knows in his heart that he's doing wrong. He knows that it is, but he just has to keep on going and keep on pushing to the point that now he can move on. So this individual who is moderate in that aspect, knowing these affairs and putting forth these affairs, is better. فَهُوَ عَلَى طَرِيقِ النَّجَاةِ. He is on the pathway to success. لكن من صار على غير Islam. The one who goes on other than Islam. وَبَتَغِي فِي Islam سُنَّةَ جَاهِلِيَّةِ. And they want the sunnah jahiliyyah in Islam. So, okay, we have economics 101, Islam, but here we have to add a little bit of this and this and this and this and this and this. Okay, we have human rights or whatever, Islam, but now we have to add democracy and this and this to make it better. No, a'udhu billah. This individual is where? He's stuck on square one. He has no good really at the end of the day going for him. Because why? Because of the hadith. Abghadun nas. That the most hated people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who wants something in Islam from Jahiliyyah. فهو على جاهلية فهو في طريق حلاك نسأل الله عافية والسلامة. And he is on the pathway to destruction. We ask Allah for well-being and salama, protection. So here we see that the importance of only looking into Islam and the Islam that we enter into is that which is based upon the book and the sunnah. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu udkhulu fis silmi kafa. So here Allah commands what? Oh, you who believe, enter into the religion completely. All of it. The worship, the belief, the statements, the actions, the mannerisms, everything of the legislation of Islam, oh, you who believe, enter into the religion completely. But then what does he say? وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. And then don't follow the what? The footsteps of the shaitan. Don't follow him. Why? Because he knows that you're upon that one path, so he's going to make other paths for you to follow away from that. So here, entering into the fold of Islam completely based upon the Kitab wa Sunnah will also protect you from those whispers and those footsteps of the shaitan. So here, Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, rahimahullah, he closes out this chapter with another athar from the companions. So he says, وَعَنْ Muhammad ibn Waddah. Muhammad ibn Waddah is from the Imams of Indulus. Indulus is, during that time, it's bigger than Spain. Spain, Morocco, Jazair, Tunis. And I don't know if it was Mauritania also, but during that time, Indulus was that whole, what they would call Northern Africa. Northern Africa, Tunis, Jazair, Algeria, Morocco, Spain, all of that was considered Andalus. So he was from the scholars of Andalus and from the Muhaddithin. أنه كان يدخل مسجد أنه returns back to Hudhayfa. I seen in the translation that he said that Muhammad ibn Waddah. And that's a mistake. Whoever has the translation of it, that's a mistake. That أنه كان يدخل المسجد فيقف على حلقة فيقول فذكره. So Muhammad ibn Waddah, he said. So here what happens because of that? They destroy Islam and they breach it. They, break the walls and they get in and they destroy it. So here, this is the importance of that, of sticking with the scholars. This is with that of dealing with sticking with the scholars of Ahl Sunnah and the people of good. People of good. He might not have reached a level of scholarship, but he knows. He knows that if you bring up a situation or a question or something like that, he will what? Defer you to the person who does know. And he's a person of good in that sense. So here in that sense, that verily it is important that we all take a reminder in that regards, that of finding the people of good, because this was said during the time of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud. So now, how many years after that do we see has deteriorated, has gone away? That has become manifest. It becomes manifest, the enemies of Islam, introducing into Islam ideas that are way foreign, that have no basis on in the religion of Islam, but disguising it and putting it under the umbrella of Islam, tricking many a people. So one has to be aware, and the only people that can give us guidance and light in that are the scholars of Ahl Sunnah. So take heed and aware, and all of this is establishing what? The obligation of entering into Islam. Entering into Islam in totality and staying away from the affairs that are not from it. For verily it is rejected. So that is the end of the chapter. That is the end of the chapter with the additions from Sheikh Abdulaziz ibn Baz, rahimahullah. And next class, inshallah, we will go over the tafsir. So what is the meaning of Islam? What is the meaning of Islam? What does it mean when Allah Ta'ala says, Inna Dina Indallah Islam, wa raditu lakum Islam ad-Dina? What does this mean? What does this Islam mean? That here the Shaykh Rahimahullah will make it apparent and explain it in the next lesson. So if there's any questions, comments, or concerns about the lesson, it can be presented now. And if not, inshallah, we will stop here and continue next time.
You said when Jahiliyyah is used as something as absolution and...
Absolute. Like it is absolute. The meaning, Jahiliyyah, absolutely. Like generally in a complete sense. That it can't be used anymore. Because Islam is present. So inshallah we will stop here, continue next week. Ilahuna subhanaka Allahumma bihamdihi ashhadu la ilaha illallah astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh.